Well, it's time now for our press review. And the fire in Johagnnesburg that's killed dozens of people is making front pages of the press in South Africa today. Tika Laurent is here to take us through it.
Well, Sharon, a lot of anger, a lot of anguish as well in the South African papers today from the front pages after that deadly fire in a dilapidated building in downtown Joburg. After the emotions, though, a lot of questions being asked on the front pages. This is from the South African Daily Business Day, which says that the fire has brought into, quote, sharp focus the systemic collapse of infrastructure and the city's inability to deal with the 20-year-old problem of hijacked buildings. The paper excuse me, the paper's editor today here in this editorial here, reminding us that the building was abandoned by its owner, the city of Johannesburg, and illegally occupied by hundreds of homeless people. It resembled an informal settlement. It was overcrowded with poor sanitation. It was essentially, the paper says, a tinderbox leading to the dysfunction and tragedy that happened on Thursday. In a nutshell, as this paper here, the Sowetan says on its front page, nothing was done to prevent such a fire from taking place. And even worse, as we mentioned there, that building was wrought by hijackers, which involved essentially properties being taken from legitimate owners and landlords and inhabited by tenants who are charged exorbitant rent by slumlords and as a result have no basic sanitation, running water or electricity in that accommodation. In this building's case, the Sowetan reminds us that the last inspection was carried out in 2019, so 4 years ago. The scourge of building hijackings has been a decades-long problem in South Africa.
Meanwhile, here in France, Deputy Emmanuel Macron was raising eyebrows over his comments about two-term limits, and that was in a meeting with party leaders. What happened there exactly?
Well, that meeting took place on Wednesday, but his comments emerged late on Thursday. Revelations that Emmanuel Macron and party leaders, they did spend 12 hours in very intense talks on Wednesday, trying to hammer out a whole host of issues such as Ukraine and inflation. Macron, excuse me, according to Politico, was reportedly responding to a proposal put forward by the far-right leader Jordan Bardella, who suggested that France switches to a single 7-year presidential term, which, according to the French president, is, I quote, damnable bullshit, reportedly expressing his frustration at these French rules. Now, the French lower house is gridlocked because Emmanuel Macron's party does not have a majority. And according to Le Figaro, the French paper, the comments by the president were aimed more widely at the fears that limiting presidential terms, in his, according to Macron, could weaken authority. The situation in any case underlies the fact that Macron is now in his second term and that perhaps his power is waning as his supporters and allies look ahead to a future of France where he is not president. Sharon.
Finally, Deputy, a man in Nebraska was lucky to get away with just a warning after travelling with a huge bull in his car.
That's right, Sharon. This is definitely your feel-good Friday story. It's been picked up widely by the international press today. It's a story of a man and his love for his bull. That bull called Howdy Doody is a huge Ankole Watusi bull. It's a modern American breed of cattle, domestic cattle coming from East and Central Africa. Now, Howdy Doody was adopted as a 6-month-old by his owner, Lee Meyer. That's what the Washington Post tells us. Lee Meyer, an empty nester at the time with some land to spare. Well, the duo have been seen riding in Meyer's outfitted old police cruiser vehicle in his Nebraska neighborhood. Excuse me. Recently, though, police stopped the vehicle after reports of a cow riding shotgun in this vehicle. Turns out it was not a small calf, as police expected, but Howdy Doody, who is a half-ton bull with huge horns, as you can see here in this picture. There was a video, actually, that went viral of the pair cruising down the highway. You see, it was certainly an unusual sight for people on the road at the time. He was pulled over by the police. Turns out Meyer had actually also cut half of the roof, windows, and windscreen on his cruiser so Howdy Doody could see where they were going. In any case, it was a clear infringement of some or possibly many laws. He was lucky, though. He got off with just a warning and was told to skip out of town. Meyer tells the Washington Post that he and Howdy Doody are frequent travel buddies. The bovine even gets treated to ice cream at highway rest stops.
Thank you, Deep T, for that. That's Deep T Laurent with our press review.